Good evening, gospel revolutionaries around the whole world. Yes, this is Michael Lilborn Williams coming to you live from here in Clarksville, Tennessee at the bonus room, which you're going to get a real bonus tonight, obviously. I figured that the show in which I lay to rest the entire foundation for the reason for the existence of Catholicism and many other parts of Christianity that adhere to this reasoning. Since we're laying that to rest, remember all of Catholicism plus a whole lot of the rest of Christianity that interpret this or take this in the way that they do, we are laying it to rest. There, you'll have no question about this whatsoever. Many of you haven't had for years, but I want to show you the reasons behind this. I started making this statement many years ago. My colleagues around me seemed to be a bit confused about it. Gosh, this was 35 years ago, and it's something that just seemed quite clear. And it became even much clearer when I was talking to one of my friends just a little bit earlier today. And yes, I want you to know that this is a perfect double Windsor. When we do things around the gospel revolution, we do it right. We're dressed for the kill. The terms that are used are important. Sometimes the definitions of words become clearer by comparison. There's many ways, as you guys know, we are going into the pseudographicals, and that we're going to lay out the criteria for us making these decisions as we go into this. And during the conference, we'll be giving you the firm criteria for the decisions that are made. One of the best ways, though, to figure out what a word means is to figure out what it means by comparison, or to even figure out what it means in the other applications that the word means. There's many other ways to do these in-depth investigations into the scriptures and also into the New Testament. So this one we're going to show you by comparison something that is very, very important. In Matthew chapter 7, starting in verse 24, this is red letter edition, so it's Jesus. Therefore, whosoever hears these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken unto him a wise man which buildeth his house upon a rock. And you know the story, and the rains came, and the storms did not destroy the house because the man had built his house on a rock. So now evidently this word rock, and the word rock here is Petra. The Petra evidently is something large enough that a whole house could be built on it, right? And so this is also repeated by Jesus in Luke chapter 16, beginning in verse 14. So he's talking about the house that's built upon a rock, a Petra. Remember, P-E-T-R-A, that's the word, and that's going to be compared to another word at the end of this teaching. Romans chapter 9, we're just wanting to show you how definitive this word is and how well it is used by Jesus himself. So let's go to, as I said, instead of making that mistake, let's go to Romans chapter 9. Romans chapter 9, and let's look down in verse 33. And in fact, let's start back up at verse 32. Wherefore, because they sought it not by faith, but as it were by the works of the law. For they stumbled at the stumbling stone, as it is written. And here he is quoting, of course, from the prophets. Behold, I lay in Zion a stumbling stone, a rock of offense, and whosoever believeth on him shall not be ashamed. So the word rock here is used again. It's like the house built on the rock. And now Jesus is saying that this powerful thing of the stumbling stone, the prophet was speaking about Jesus, of course, and he's saying that this Petra, if anybody builds upon this Petra, that this is not going to be anything that can be refuted. You're not going to be ashamed for being built on the Petra, as Jesus is called here, all the way back out of the scriptures. And then let's go to 1 Corinthians. And from 1 Corinthians, we're going to read here, moreover, brethren, I would not that ye be ignorant how that ye should be, I would not have you ignorant how that all of our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea and were all baptized into Moses in the cloud in the sea, and did eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. Now this again, even here in this part of Corinthians, is making reference to the Hebrew scriptures and making sure that we understand that this Petra, it's still the same word, this Petra was Christ. So far, we've made it fairly conclusive that when the word Petra is used, that it's talking about Christ. Even Jesus made reference to this about building a house on a Petra, on a rock. And let's now go to, yes, we're going to quote out of 1 Peter. Now, the reason we're using this in 1 Peter chapter 2, I think Paul most likely wrote 1 Peter chapter 1. We're going to be covering all that with you in the teachings that we do from Calgary that are coming up on the pseudographical writings. However, this is in 1 Peter chapter 2, but what we're pulling out here, Peter actually was quoting from the scriptures. So it's okay if Peter quotes from the scriptures, we can quote Peter. He says, wherefore also it is contained in the scriptures, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that buildeth on him shall not be confounded. Unto you therefore which believe he is precious, but unto them which are disobedient, the stone which the builders rejected has become the same, is made the head of the corner, a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word because of disobedience. And we know that that rock and that stone that is being spoken of is very, see, I'm maybe this wasn't such a good idea after all. But I really felt I should be dressed for the kill with my double WIndsor. So as we've gone through this, now this is basically the bulk. This is, if not all, because some of these are repeats, so I didn't use them. Every place the word Petra is used, this is talking about Christ, that this is this is the Petra. In Revelation, it's actually also used in the Revelation, where it says that, you remember the prophecy that which we went into in the Revelation. It said that they would that things would get so bad, had Jesus not come and done what he did, that they would cry out for the rocks to fall upon them. Now, according to this so far, with what a rock is described as something you can build your house on. So we're not talking about a little thing when you're talking about a Petra. So let's go back now to something that is quoted constantly, and it affirms the faith of Catholicism, and some of you already know where we're going. That word Peter, you know, that means rock, right? Maybe. So we go back and we look here in Matthew chapter 16, verse 18. And Jesus said, "And I say unto thee, thou art Peter, and upon this rock will I build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Now, the part that we're going to zero in on here, of course, is this statement that says that you, as Jesus said, "You are Peter, and upon this rock." Now, for 2,000 years, 1.3 billion Catholics will tell you that Christ built his church on the Apostle Peter, because the word Peter means rock. In a sense, it does. But we have the wonderful ability to compare words. And both of the words are here. Now, the word, I've already told you, the word Petra is amazing. I mean, it means, this is mountain-sized stuff we're talking about. You know, the rock that you could build your house on. The rock, Christ, who is big enough for the whole foundation of the church, which is the whole world, rests upon this rock called Christ. That's what the prophecies said. Yet Catholicism and others of Christianity took this verse and built a doctrine that over 1.3 billion people are walking around deceived by. "And I say unto you, thou art Peter." Now, the word Peter has a Greek definition. It's Petros or Petros. I was raised in Petros, Tennessee. Well, I moved there when I was 10 years old. Is the worst mistake my family ever made, just to move me to Petros, Tennessee. Everybody in town knew that word Petros meant little stone or little rock. It was a little town. It was a little coal mining town that they named Petros. They named it that because it was a little town. Little Rock. They might have called Little Rock. They could have called Little Rock Petros, I suppose. But that's what the name Peter means. If indeed they didn't change that to mean a rock over the centuries, I didn't go into the etymology of the word, but it wasn't necessary. It wasn't necessary because the term rock is used here in this also. Now, I want to read this to you exactly what it says in the Greek. "And I say unto thee, thou art a small pebble, and upon this massive rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." Jesus was comparing the difference between a person, the man Peter, which meant a little rock, a little stone. You see, if this would have been a Petra, oh, we cry out for the Petros to be falling on us. Oh, you can build your house on a Petros. A wise man will build his house on a Petros. No, a wise man wouldn't build his house on a Petros, because if you keep taking that term, Petros, and take it down, do you know what a grain of sand is? It's the smallest Petros there is. But you see, the word that is used here, which is Petra, which is Jesus said, I'm going to build my church on the Petra, not the Petros, or the Petros, as we call it in East Tennessee. Folks, this just goes to show you how easily a denomination that 1.3 billion people think that Peter is the rock and foundation of their church, or the church of Jesus Christ, that the Apostle Peter is the foundation of that. The Apostle Peter is not. The rock, which we went through and established who this Petra is, the Petra is Christ. The Petros is Peter. Jesus didn't build his house on sand. Jesus built his house on a rock.